Welcome to Autism Awareness Acceptance Month. I'm Kim Alexander with Moms of Black Boys United. I want to thank everyone for joining us for our launch and this conversation. So, I want to give a little bit of background on how we got here. Um, Moms of Black Boys United, M.O.B.B. United, we have spent a great deal of time around special needs and mental health awareness, autism awareness, understanding the complexities of the human person, specifically in our male children. I started with Moms of Black Boys United 7 years ago as a volunteer, and the first place I was in special needs, and it has always been near and dear to me. Anytime I have spoken about our children as it relates to special needs, I've always described them as exceptional. I quickly learned that those who are exceptional fit in with our self care and our changing perceptions pillar the most. It is why I enjoy these conversations so much. Um, because special needs kind of encompasses so many different things. We can talk about things that people assume are deficits. We can talk about those who are um, who have high IQs and are not challenged in a particular way or not understood in a particular way because people don't quite get how they think. Special needs is not just about having a deficit. And just because you have a special need in some way, shape, form, or fashion doesn't mean that it speaks to the totality of who you are. And so I enjoy having these conversations with families and parents and our children who come on for our autism awareness talent showcase because it changes the perception around what special needs means. Um, Anyone who knows me knows for the entire time that I've had the privilege of hosting these conversations that I've always said I wanted to sit down with a dad. I want to sit down with a man who is experiencing what having a child with a special need feel in real life and what that feels like and be able to have that conversation because I think that there is nuance there. I think that there is a dynamic that's different than when a mother is rearing a child who has a special need because moms parent differently than dads. And so in 7 years and on this day is the first time that I am sitting down with Chance Lewis, who is in the Atlanta, Georgia area. He has a 15-year-old son who is autistic, young Justin, who is exceptional in so many ways, but he is the first of three that will talk to us about the experience, the journey, and the spectrum of fatherhood. Chance, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kimberly, for having me.
How are you this evening?
I am doing good. It's been a long day, and I'm glad it's going into the weekend, so I'm ready to relax.
I hear you. I hear you. So I want to jump right in and I want to talk about you as a young man. Um, when you imagined and envisioned the idea of having children, um, first was having a son, having someone who you may or may not have considered legacy. Was that something you wanted? And then what did you imagine fatherhood would be as you grew up?
Um, I would say imagined having, a boy, hopefully, versus a girl is what I wanted, but I would have been happy with either. And I got a son, and I was expecting, hopefully, play sports and get into all kinds of different, athletic things that I wanted to do. And he wasn't so much interested in those things. So that was the first, one of the first of many things that
Okay.
took. Yeah.
And I know when we talked initially, we talked about how you guys kind of, you and his mom kind of got to the point of testing. Um, Tell us a little bit about that early journey with Justin and what that looked like and how you got to your diagnosis.
Well, I guess he was about 3.5, 4. He was 4 years old,
Mhm.
and I had no idea how a 4-year-old should be. I didn't have kids before him, so he was my first. And some of my friends and family, mainly friends who are in the medical industry, um, spotted that he might have some issues that need to be, taken care of or looked at because he was a bit behind. He wasn't speaking yet. And for me, it's something that you don't notice when you communicate with your kid. He communicates his way to you, and I kind of would know what he's saying without even talking. So
Mm,
I never thought that there could be something wrong or different, not
mhm,
wrong. Anyway, I was inspired to go get him tested out, tested to figure out what's going on and why he's not speaking yet. I did a lot of research and found out he is behind the curve on some things, and then I
mhm,
saw some behaviors that were concerning, and I was on board with getting him tested. And some of my really good friends helped me get that done. And after full examination, we found out that he's on the spectrum, and they said it's hard to tell now, how he'll turn out, but hopefully it'll be good. We'll know more when he becomes verbal. So we then worked on multiple, days and sessions, and developing his verbal, his cognitive skills, things to help him develop.
mhm,
Um, and over time, it really, really, really helped out and paid off. But to your next question, I guess.
mhm. What was your initial reaction when someone approached you and said, your son does not seem typical?
Offended, definitely offended. I didn't want to think that there was something different about him, and I thought he was absolutely normal and excellent how he was, and I still do, of course.
Mhm,
And it sounded like um, that someone was saying there's something wrong with him when that's not what they were saying. They
mhm,
were just concerned that there might be some needs we could get, that we should get some help with. And
mhm.
they were right, but yeah, offended at first. And I'm glad that that blew over, and I did what I had to do.
So when we talked initially, it sounded like once you got past that hurdle of offense, you kind of jumped in feet first, um, to kind of figure out what it was that you could do to help, kind of close the gap for Justin. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was and what that kind of looked like for your family, and what were some of those initial outcomes?
Um, so basically, all the different therapies that you could get for a child going through, having issues with development. So, like I said, cognitive skill development, verbal communication, all kinds of different, better walking skills, posture, just his mannerisms, things he would do. Um, eh, did it all pay off? Of course, but I didn't really know until he started talking out of the blue when he turned 5, like 5.5. All of a sudden, he went from nonverbal to full communication, and yeah, it's so I think all the therapy definitely paid off, but I couldn't see like a gradual transition at that point. It just went night and day, and I was very, very happy, of course, when that happened.
How did your parenting change? Did it change?
um, it I wouldn't necessarily say it changed. We were always like we were in our routine already, so everything we were doing, it was already like that. By the time we had other things, like the diagnosis and things like that, that didn't really change, what time he wanted to go to the park or, take his nap or anything like that. That stayed pretty much, everything stayed the same. I did a lot of experimenting on what he might be interested in. So we went from like, every single sport you could think, which he wasn't interested in sports, then to acting and drama and dancing and breakdancing and, uh, went through a Michael Jackson dancing phase. There was all kinds of different things that he was interested in, but it was more to the arts. He was gravitating to music big time. Music, dancing, drama, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you said you found connectivity there with him, um, in terms of music and that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit more about Justin. We start with music and what he does. I understand he plays a few instruments, but tell us a little bit more about him.
Justin, what can I say about Justin? It's so many things. He is a very, very loving, joyful kid. He has a very big heart. He's caring. He's extremely kind. He's helpful. He wants to, hold the door open for strangers. He's great. School, he's super smart. He's been on the honor roll last year, this year. We just got a plaque 2 days ago, mailed in from his school. Very proud of him for, he works really hard, gets all A's, some B's, but he's good at that. As soon as he puts his mind to anything, he immediately dives in, and you would think he had been studying it for years on the progress that he can get. I think this definitely has to do with being on the spectrum and being able to focus in a different kind of way. But like drumming is his big thing now. And, he's been drumming for almost a year and a half, and he is really, really good. All the schools we have him in tell us that he's beyond, they can't believe it's only been a year and a half that he just picked up the drumsticks and pretty much taught himself for the first 6 months before I got him some lessons. And now he's in a rock band, which is cool. And he's in a band with another kid. His name's Kingston. What up, Kingston?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and they've got a band together, and the singer's name is Rhett, and they met each other at summer music camp, and they became friends and started a band. So we went from a real kind of antisocial, not a lot of friends, to all of a sudden different, whole like band, which is pretty exciting. And they've performed a bunch, and we're really excited for what's going on with them right now.
Yeah, shout out to Kingston for real. He is a mob nephew and we love him dearly. Um, what were some of those other social components, right? Like, so you said he was antisocial. Um, what struggles did you see there? How did he interact with others?
um, well, there's a couple of things. One thing, so in school, like kindergarten, he wouldn't talk to other kids like during recess or whatever, like their break. He would just play with his music by himself, and he didn't have music with him, so he'd pretend he had headphones on, and he'd be in the back corner pretending to like DJ or listening to music, and all the other kids would be mingling amongst themselves, but he'd be in his own world. That went on probably kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Come second grade, we started to, hear the teachers say there might be something more than just, him being on the spectrum, So we went ahead and got him further tested, and we found out he had ADHD. And then we put him on medicine for ADHD, and he was in special needs all the way up until that point. And then in 1 month after that, we got contacted from the school saying that he's blowing out all his assignments, he's killing it, and he's no longer in special needs. He's probably advanced. At that point, he had also realized that he doesn't have a lot of people talking to him. And then I guess he might have realized that for the last 3 years, all his friends or, classmates have been looking at him as a kid playing in the corner. And it was really hard for him to transition and be like, hey, I'm social now. I want to
Mhm.
communicate now. He wasn't accepted, and he was bullied a lot. So that kind of thing led us to have digital school, and he's been in that, but he's about to go back in 10th
Okay.
grade now. Yeah.
So he left the school building and moved to digital school, online school, and he's gonna re-enter.
Yeah, so that was 7th grade, and now going into the 10th grade, he's re-entering.
So what is
Next,
that conversation like?
the big conversation. It was up to him.
Okay.
He decided that he wanted to have the high school experience,
Yeah.
and I think meeting Kingston and Rhett, being in a band with other kids, he kind of got the flavor of what it's like to communicate with other kids on a regular basis, and he
Mhm.
wants that. And I'm ready for it too. I'm excited for him. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Tell us about a time that you made a mistake with him. You told me a story about pushing him too soon.
Yes. So one of the issues that he had, and still does have, sound sensory issues. For the longest time, we couldn't walk through a parking lot without him covering his ears like this and
Mm.
covering his head, because the sound of passing cars would get to him, and it was too much for him. So I, was used to him doing that, and he was getting a little bit older, and he's about, I guess, 8.
Mhm.
And 8 years old, and I was like, Justin, I just want to let you know, the sound of cars, it's not going to hurt you. Like, I just, I want to make sure because I think you're scared. And he's like, he couldn't explain to me
Mhm.
how he got overwhelmed. So I guess he just listened, and I said, I'd like to show you that it's not going to hurt you. If you trust me, I'll show you. And he's like, okay. So I had him stand outside my car, and I said, I'm going to turn the car on, and you don't have to cover your ears. You're going to be fine. I promise. And he said, okay. I turned the car on, and immediately he grabbed his ears and he started screaming, and he hit the ground, and he started shaking. I had to pick him up. I put him on the couch, and he pretty much cried there for the better part of 6 hours.
Mm.
And
I asked you to
yeah.
share that story because um as parents, there's no manual, right? We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to be good, right, or wrong for our children. And it wasn't to re-trigger that feeling, but it was to get to the question of how did you forgive yourself and how did you rebuild trust with Justin?
um, he trusted me immediately. He knew I wasn't trying to hurt him. So that wasn't hard. And how did I forgive myself? It's just, it's like touch the fire. It's like, ouch, you don't do that again. I immediately knew that this wasn't something that I could resolve. Um, I'm not an expert. I didn't go to school medically, trained to, help this. So I have to accept their roles. And, he's still in therapy and probably will be for, maybe even forever. I don't know. That'll be his decision. But it's done wonders. But yeah, I forgave myself. I wouldn't do it again. Definitely. And he has come a long way since then. Now he does walk through parking lots with no problem. Um, for having sound sensory issues, he plays the drums, which is wow. But the earplugs,
Mm.
he's able to do it and get away with not having a problem with the sound because of the earplugs. Yeah.
I think that's just like such great humility and a testament to who you are as a human, as a man, as a Black man,
Well,
and as
thank
a
you.
father. Um, because I think it's hard for parents to say, I don't know everything about their respective child, right? Like that this is mine. And it can be difficult to say, I need to relinquish this part because I'm not the subject matter expert. And realizing that we hope that we would be experts in our own children. In fact, as a nurse, I would tell parents all the time, don't let doctors bully you because you're an expert on this child. Where did you find that space? Where did that come from?
I don't really know. It just kind of came. I didn't search for it. It just
Mm,
everything kind of happened naturally. I honestly didn't know how to plan for any of this. I would just follow the instructions of, when to bring him to the therapies he had to go to, and
mm,
and then I kept him busy with different routines to find what he liked to do, and somehow, with a great deal of help with friends and family, he's got a very strong support system.
mhm.
Um, it just the space all created, and the bandwidth became unlimited.
So a lot of people, a lot of parents struggle with the decision to do medication or not. Some parents are shamed either way. Shame for not doing medication, shame for doing medication. It is one of the decisions that I think a lot of families struggle with. I hear it a lot. What was that decision making process for you guys? And did Justin have a say in that? Did you talk to him about it? Tell me how you felt about that next step and what that looked like for you guys.
It's a big question. I would say that well, we were anxious to get him help. Um, and we had gone through all the different therapy channels that could have happened. So at this point, it's the only thing we hadn't tried. Um, so we were anxious to try it. And when we did, like I said earlier, uh, boom, 1 month, huge turnaround, like unbelievable. Um, so that was a really good thing. And we kept him on that medication for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
Some of these medications have side effects, and that one had side effects, and it led in a negative way. It had a mental side effect in a negative direction. So we
Mhm.
had to pull him off that. And then we went through about 4 or 5 different other medicines trying to
Mhm.
figure out what might work. And then finally, we came to something that worked. And it didn't have any negative side effects, even listed the possibility of it. And that's been going really good for him. Um, but yeah, some of those medicines, you have to really pay attention and work well with a psychiatrist to figure out how it's affecting your kid. And, there might be things you don't know that are happening in their head. So you got to pay a lot of attention. So
Mhm.
anyway, I would say pay a lot of attention if you're going to decide to do medicine. We've had very positive results, especially off what we're on now, but very dangerously on the other side, not positive.
So there's a certain level of stigma associated in the Black community with mental health therapy. Um, self-care for many of us is a new word. Like it's newly added to the lexicon of the Black family. Um, how are you taking care of yourself?
Oh man, uh, reading a lot. I've recently started meditating, but for at least the last 9 months, I've been doing cardio. I get up every single morning and I walk for about 2 to 3 miles every single morning before I do anything. Nutrition, I exercise, I pray, um, and yeah, that's pretty much the things that I do, and I work hard. So, and I follow Justin and make sure he's got everything he needs in every direction. So, and it's a lot because he's got piano on Mondays, on Tuesdays bass guitar, Wednesdays drumming, Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays band practice. So there's always something. So yeah, I'm very busy, and those are the things I do.
So that actually, I love all of that. I love that you're able to rattle off what you do to kind of keep yourself centered. But I have to say that went from isolation to of service. You went from all of these activities that you described that you either do by yourself or you do for other people. Who's your community?
My community. Um, you know, my friends, my family. Definitely. I'm tight with my friends and my family. I went and walked with my mom yesterday.
Oh.
Spent a lot of time with her, and I'm gonna spend more time. I've committed. She had hip surgery a couple
Mhm.
months back, so I need to start really walking with her. But what do I do for fun? Like, what do I do for myself? Um, I write. That's another thing to put on a list, but it's something I do for fun. I write music, I write lyrics, and I do that for fun. I haven't done that in a minute, but I need to get back to that. Busy with other things, but yeah.
So tell us about your connectivity with Justin. So there's things that you do for him, there's things you usher him to. What do you do together?
Uh, well, we often go to the movies. I see movies that I would never go see myself because I would never want to see, but I go see every movie he wants to see. His favorite food is Vietnamese food,
Okay.
and he wants to go all the time. Whenever we get a chance, he wants to go and sit down and have lunch with me. Big bowl of pho
Mhm.
is his favorite thing. And he hangs out with my wife, him and my wife. We do things together. We go, to restaurants and festivals. He's less into it now as a teenager. He doesn't want to do much with us, especially now that he's got a band and he's gonna be all this stuff. So I'm not as cool anymore as I used to be, but I'm still a bit cool. Yeah.
So 15, you just said it, a teenager that comes with puberty, soon on the horizon,
A lot.
it's a lie.
A lot.
Oh, I
Pure.
thought you said it's a lie. I was like, no, he's gonna do puberty.
No, it's a lot. Pure. The
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting
they
in
change.
interest in love interest, right? Like I
They
think that
change.
it's probably gonna start. You're gonna know like what he likes and doesn't like. And how do you have those conversations with him about boundaries and navigating his community where expressively he's a little bit different? What is that like?
Um, I mean, for the most part, I tell him to be him, go and be himself, and be unapologetic on, who you are, and whatever you're into. I told him that I love him. It doesn't matter. Now, I did explain to him, how high school, politics and bullying and what's popular and what's not. But I mean, I was in the 1990s back in my high school, so it's much different from, I'm sure, today. But I gave him some basic pointers on what to do, what not to do, kind of thing. But I think he's gonna be just fine. Yeah, and yeah, I am nervous, but I'm ready for it.
So we're Moms of Black Boys United. We came together as moms, under in a time where, or I guess we're still in this time, but we had some very profound concerns about our Black sons navigating our communities. Those concerns still exist. And I think that when I talk to moms who have a Black son that does not communicate for whatever the reasoning is, the same way that most would consider typical, there can sometimes be a profound fear, a fear of if I'm approached by law enforcement on the street, when he starts driving, if he chooses to, what that pullover looks like. How do I express myself? Do I tell him off the bat I'm autistic? Give me a minute. I need to process. What kinds of variations to the talk do you have with Justin?
Well, you just added a whole new variation to it with the whole, uh, on the spectrum side. I didn't. That's not even something I considered to, there could be a issue where he had a reaction. Yeah, no, I didn't think of that. But prior to all of the rest, yeah, I prepare him on, how to speak and how to cooperate and how to, definitely not be afraid and to calmly listen and do exactly what you're told as far as following the instructions you're supposed to follow. Um and yeah, he's pretty much, one of his uncles is a police officer. What up, Uncle Jason? Um, who has given him a lot of pointers and will continue as well. But yes, it's something I'm concerned about. And could there be a different reaction based on him being on the spectrum? Absolutely. And
Mhm.
that's something that I did not even think about until you just said that just now. So I'll be
So
definitely
interesting.
exploring that.
I find that so interesting that we as mothers, mob moms, our inner circle, the Pelsham Magruder, who is our founder, has a son about the same age as Justin, who's on the spectrum, and it is something we talk about really, really often. Um, I I I don't want to assign it to gender, but I do. I honestly I find it very interesting that you had not considered what
So
that might look like.
yeah, so he if we didn't tell you or tell someone else that he's on the spectrum, you would never ever know. You would never know at all. So his regular behavior, we're so used to. And there has been a couple of times where I've seen something traumatic cause a different kind of result as far as his behavior is concerned. And it's just not often enough that I was concerned about it.
Mhm.
But now that you say that, that is a concern to me, and I agree with you that that's something that we need to look at, figuring out ways that he can cope with. Say there is a some sort of a reaction
Mhm.
and behavior that's not the right thing. So I don't know, and I'll talk to my police friends about that as well, because actually I think there is something he can do about that. So I don't know, but you might know. I would ask you, coach, coach me. What
You
what
know,
what can I
I
say
think
to my
that
son?
people think of a lot of different things. Some people are very comfortable walking into their local police station and introducing their child when they're getting ready to start driving, right?
Yeah,
Um, some people are not comfortable doing that at all. There are some people who are comfortable having the seat belt indicator that visually tells whomever is interacting with the driver that they're on the spectrum. And then other people don't want to do that at all. We will be talking to Eric Carpenter Grantham in a couple of weeks, who is introducing a bill to put a decal on a license for silent disabilities.
I
Um,
think I think those are all amazing ideas, especially the decal thing. Yeah, those are all excellent, and I'm gonna do every one of those things.
so yeah, I mean, in my head, I think about sirens. If he's pulled over and the sirens are going, what does that then trigger for him? Um, for
Jeez,
me,
wow,
I have a son who has
amazing.
a traumatic brain injury, and more scarier than someone having a physical exceptionality is them having a silent one,
Yep,
right? Because what you
absolutely.
just said, like that if you didn't tell me that Justin was on the spectrum, I might not know it.
Yep,
That scares
absolutely,
me more than
absolutely. Yep.
him having crutches.
Especially what you just said, the silence, because I know that can happen. I know that can and does happen with him.
Mm,
So that's I did not think about that. I'm glad that we talked about this today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what does the future look like? What are the hopes? What are your hopes? What are his hopes? And where do you align?
Oh man, the future looks amazing.
Mm, I love that.
He he he's incapable. He's capable of anything he wants to do, and more. I know that he knows the potential he has. I
Mm,
know that he fully wants to take advantage of every opportunity that he can get his hands on to better him and to better his music, and he's learning three instruments at the same time on purpose. He wants to do that. Um, I know that he's trying so hard in school, and
mm,
he's working really hard. He does get behind more than I would want, but digital school, he kind of has figured out a little bit of a recipe how it
mm,
allows him to procrastinate, and then boom, 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 he hits them with
mm.
A's, and out of here, and gets honor roll on the report card. But I want him to start focusing and getting more on top and ahead instead of behind. So that's what I'm working on with him today. But I have all the confidence in the world. He's just going to do great things. He wants to go to university. He
Mhm.
wants to get his MBA, and he's talking about businesses he wants to start. It's just he's all over the place with what he's doing, and I'm here to support every single thing he wants to do to help him grow and accomplish his dreams. And his biggest fan.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love the sentiment. You know, I can see, feel, hear the joy that you have as you talk about your journey with him. What advice do you have to the dad who's getting a diagnosis, to the dad of the teenager, to the dad who's at his wit's end?
Hold on.
What advice do you have?
I would say um, just be patient and don't think that there's something wrong with your kid at all. There's nothing wrong. Just they're different, and they can do things that you'll never be able to do, my friend. Uh, yeah, so it's almost a superpower,
Mhm.
So I
It
would just say
is.
be patient and sit back and be as supportive as you can, and just watch your child blossom, and they will do amazing things and shock you. That's what I would say.
And to the father who is learning and beginning to accept the child that is different than what they imagined. I know you said it came easy to you, but you also talked about that initial offense where you could have gone one or two ways. You could have been offended and stayed offended. And, Justin might not have gotten what he needed right at that moment. How do you want to encourage others to get out their own way?
Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of a way to answer that, because I was so not like that I'm trying to think, if I was like that, what would I say to me to inspire me to want to love and support my kid. I don't like that should just be a natural thing, man. Love and support your kid no matter what. Like there's no why would you not?
Mhm,
You created that child. Love and support that child. That child will be great.
mhm.
That's what I would say. I just don't understand the concept of not being able to be loving and supportive of your kid at all. So
That sounds like the answer to me right there.
yeah.
Like no matter what it is, 10 toes down, right?
Yeah.
No matter what it is. Listen, thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
I I I was really I was dead set on having conversations that highlighted the regular and everyday journey. You know,
Gotcha.
the idea that um you go into this thing with a child and you don't know what's on the other side of it, and you might not have every resource that someone else has, and you had a huge learning curve that could have felt and seemed insurmountable. um However, you got there and you continue to move forward in that lane, and so kudos to you again. I know I said it before, but really
Thank
kudos to you for doing all it was that you needed to do to make sure that Justin is supported. And don't fret, we're going to meet Justin in another episode
All
where
right.
he's going to be part of our talent showcase, and he's going to show us all of the great things that he can do.
Awesome.
So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for our next talk, which is going to be next week on Tuesday for our first Mob United town hall, where we are going to launch Level Up the Vote, and talk about all of the things that we should be doing in our community, including protecting our exceptional. So thank you so much, Chance Lewis, for joining us from Atlanta, Georgia
Thank
today.
you, Kimberly. Thank you very much.
Yes, have a wonderful night, and you
Bye.
guys stay tuned for all that's to come.